I'm Dasha Pears and you're listening to another episode of my Inspiration in Action podcast. The reason why I started this podcast is, and why I post all my content on social media is to show you and prove that things are possible, that creative celebrities and talents that you see online and admire are just people like you and me, and that they have their ups and downs and that all of them also started from zero. It means that you can do it too. This episode of the podcast will be a solo one. Today I want to share my personal creative story with you so that maybe you can learn something from it too. And we all know personal stories are always interesting, so here we go. If you're listening to me right now, chances are that you've come across my Instagram account and liked my work. Maybe you were even impressed and decided that if you're a photographer, you want to shoot like me. I'm judging from my own experience now, because this is what I felt and sometimes still feel when coming across works of a photographer who I really admire. But let me guess, there might be doubts, and that you can shoot like that, right? You might be asking yourself, what if I don't have the talent? What if I don't have the ideas? What if my life is boring and I don't have a real story to tell? What if I don't know how to tell stories? What if I don't have the right background? But let me tell you this, you can shoot like me or even better if you want to. You can and hopefully will tell deeper stories in better ways. There's not such a thing as special talent. You can develop your creativity and rise it to amazing new high levels, but you need to work for it and work a lot. To prove that I'm not special and wasn't born with any extraordinary talents, I'll tell you where I studied and where I came from. I was born in a relatively small town and never thought of photography as a real profession. But I always liked art. So I graduated from art school for kids and I did classical oil painting, sculpture, history of arts, composition and things like that. I moved to St. Petersburg in 2006 and this is where I realized my interest in photography. And I didn't have a camera back then, so I borrowed my friend's one since she wasn't using it anyways. The first images that I took were basically capturing the details of life going on around me. I was fascinated by this huge, beautiful city and wanted to take pictures of everything that seemed wonderful to me, but all the people were just passing by. So basically, I started as a travel photographer. Later on, I got my first DSLR camera, but I didn't really know how to use it properly because I was too lazy to read the manual. Then I went to a short photography course, and this course allowed me to make a breakthrough in my images. I began to understand exposure, aperture, depth of field, and things like that. And that was my only formal education in photography. Everything else that you see in my Instagram account and everywhere else on my website, I learned myself. I'm self-taught. So my first photography attempts were photos of flowers, kittens, some travel photos, street photography, etc. And when I got my first 50mm lens, that was a gift from my husband because I would never buy anything expensive for just a hobby. I realized that I like taking photos of people and I'm kind of good at that. And this realization came to me when all of my friends started having my photos as their social media avatars. At the same time, I wasn't serious about photography. It was just a hobby, I never had time for it. And I had a very busy and stressful marketing job, which I also liked a lot. However, at some point, I couldn't take it anymore and had sort of a burnout and decided to take some time to discover things that I was interested in. That included French language, embroidering, and photography besides other things. At one point, I discovered Flickr, and I saw what photographers were creating there. I found several people who I really admired and started following their work. And of course, I wanted to create something similar to that. Among others, I discovered Anka Zhuravleva, and I was simply blown away by her works. But then I also noticed that all the images were shot in the same city where I lived, St. Petersburg, And for some reason, that showed me that things like that could be possible for me too. Luckily, I had a friend who was very supportive and also was ready to experiment and find props and weird clothes and unusual locations. So, first ideas of having stage photo shoots came from her, and I would never think of anything like that myself. In the meantime, I also had a baby, and of course I was trying to capture all the moments of her life. This led me to my interest in family and child photography. I found my first kid models in a clinic where my daughter had her regular checkups. So my first goal in photography was to recreate the photos I saw online. I never thought I could actually be creative and shoot something unusual until two things happened. First of all, I attended a workshop by Anka Žovljova, and the second thing was that I met a decorator. Her name is Tina Habarova, and it was a true breakthrough for me because we started to collaborate on projects. And this was my first collaboration. She basically created all the props for my images during at least 2 years. Starting from 2011 up until 2015, I wasn't sure where I was going with my photography. I was creating what I was really interested in, which was conceptual and fine art. But at the same time, I really wanted to make money from photography. I wanted to make photography my real profession and get paying clients. And the only way to get them for me, I thought, was to shoot weddings and families. And anything I could actually get, like interior, studio portraits, objects, so I tried it all. Moving to Finland was one of the turning points in my career. I realized that what was really popular in Russia, the fine art photography, was not that developed and popular here. So whenever I started uploading my work online, I got requests from people who wanted to meet me for coffee and learn how I worked. This pushed me to organize my first creative photography workshop, and teaching has now become an important part of my life, and I realized how much I love sharing my knowledge and experience. And I also love to get ready for my workshops and online courses because I constantly learn new things myself. But let's get back. At this point, I had sort of a double identity as a photographer. I wanted to shoot surreal fine art and only that, and support myself through that as well. But at the same time, my common sense and everyone around me, including my closest friends and parents, were telling me that shooting weddings and doing all other kinds of purely commercial photography was the only right path, since I've already given up a successful marketing career. There was a constant battle in my mind which one I should do. And it also wasn't only about the money. I believed everyone around me, and I thought so myself, that surreal fine art images are useless and pointless. They don't capture people's emotions, they don't show true stories, they don't preserve people's memories, and they were basically fake. That was my negative thought. What I was completely discounting back then was that my art was making me happy. Through it, I found self-expression and freedom. I could explore the depths of my own consciousness, or even maybe unconsciousness. Through it, I could also connect to other creatives who shared my interests. In fact, when I started making art, I met many more interesting people than during my whole marketing and PR career, though I was mostly and still am working from home. I was also disregarding all the positive feedback I got from my online community. People were saying that they enjoy looking at my art, but I didn't see any value in that. It took me a long time to understand that bringing visual beauty into this world is precious and is a privilege. What's even a bigger privilege is to inspire other people who see my art to create their own. But it took me a long way to get there. Getting back to my mental struggles period. So I was sort of negative about my art. At the same time, something inside me really wanted to keep shooting and creating my weird realities. And I also felt that though I was quite good in family and wedding photography, I wasn't really growing there, and I wasn't interested in that growth. So, if you're listening to me right now and you're also struggling between which type of photography you should choose, know that I've been there too. When I finally decided to let go of my attempts to be a pro wedding photographer, I began looking for ways to make money from my surreal artwork, and everything began to fall into its place. This is when I signed a few contracts with several photo agencies and got my first book covers. So now some of my photos are published on covers of books that I published in various countries, including Italy, Norway, the Netherlands, the US, some countries in South America, and others. When I started uploading my work on Instagram, I started getting paying clients who wanted this type of photography for their brands. So now I have a chance to create commercial photos without losing my style. So today my work is split 50-50 between commercial and personal projects and teaching. And this is what I want you to understand. Your personal work promotes your commercial one, if you're trying to combine them like me. Because this is where you can put your heart into what you're shooting. Your client work can be satisfying too, but there you will rarely have complete freedom. So, this is my story. I hope you can learn something from it or relate to it in some way. But this is the main thing that I want you to take away from this episode. Everything is possible if you allow it. There is no such a thing as special talents. If you really want to create amazing, meaningful art, you will. But prepare to work for it and stay true to your dreams and values. And remember that it will also take time, in most cases a lot of it. I'm nowhere close to arriving on my creative photography journey. I'm actually in the very beginning, and now it's not easy. But I'm enjoying it, and that's the main thing for me. Thank you so much for listening to the very end of this episode. If you like it or have a question, please send me a DM on Instagram or leave a comment on your podcast app. It will mean a world to me. I really, really appreciate being in your ears right now. Now, until next time, take care.